and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. As Romania faces political turmoil following the annulment of its presidential election, protests continue to grow and the country braces for a critical rerun in May. Polish Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski arrived in Bucharest on Thursday. What are the implications for Romania's position in the EU and NATO? Well, to make sense of everything going on, we're joined by Radu Albu-Comănescu, a Visegrad Insight Fellow and Lecturer in European Integration at the University of Cluj-Napoca. Welcome, sir, to TVP World, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure is ours, sir. So, characterize for us, please, the protests that are currently going on in Romania. How widespread are they, and how influential are they likely to be?
Depending on whose point of view we approach, for us, the centrists, the pro-Europeans, it's a surprise to see them diminishment. And it's definitely not necessarily a surprise because, in certain ways, because much of the, impressive mass of voices, of messages, of numbers that were supporting the extreme right is actually constituted by bots and trolls, and there were no real people to support the movement, the revolutionary movement of the extreme right that was much expected by those who were believing a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, that they can change the direction that the country takes by integrating into Europe and probably find a new place somewhere closer to the interests of Russia. So it came as a flop. We have to say that yesterday, 26th, was the birthday of the birthday anniversary of Călin Georgescu, and you can imagine that his supporters planned various manifestations in favor, which strangely reminded us of the days when Ceausescu, before 1989, was receiving birthday messages and lots of eulogy coming from a population that had nothing much else to say but words, because there's nothing much to be grateful for. So it was a peculiar, quite bizarre flashback into the past, with a Călin Georgescu that only was allowed to get out of his house to visit a police station, to sign. He is under judiciary control, and go back home with absolutely no political comment. He's not allowed to make any public political appearance. He's not allowed to post messages on any social platform until the campaign is over, because he's, of course, under scrutiny. So his supporters, and this is an interesting thing, never received any kind of support message, not even by intermediaries. And there is an entire dispute of who is actually the heir to the throne of Călin Georgescu. And the dispute is slightly acute, I would say, because you would have two that were devout, honest in their affiliation to the extreme right trend. One of them, the latest to join the presidential bid, is a woman, Ana Maria Gavrila. Well, she had to just withdraw because, given the alliance that the two most prominent far-right leaders did, she was the one that would receive the least.
Okay, I want to go to who the heirs are, as you put it. But before we get there, just for those, just to clarify the whole picture for our audience, Călin Georgescu was, well, he gained the largest number of votes in the previous presidential election. The result was overturned because of suspected or proven, I understand now, interference by Russia. And he has been banned from standing again. Now, the protests, you say, have not been particularly impressive. What about protests on the other side of the political spectrum? I understand that they have also been taking place.
Absolutely, it was a mobilization just to demonstrate that the pro-European parties are also active and they can also shape the public opinion. So the participation was considerably higher given the numbers that were shown, and of course given the videos available, which do show and do demonstrate that the mass of participants was wider. But there is an entire debate on how is this going to actually impact the elections, because we are 2 months before. We are not sure if we won't be having any other TikTok surprise or any other surprise candidate, for instance, to switch votes or use mechanisms of, algorithms of social platforms in a way that would, again, generate disproportion of expectations. It's not for the moment the case.
So who is going to be getting Georgescu's voters, do you think?
So we have three main candidates. Former Prime Minister Victor Ponta, who shifted from his original, or allegedly original, social democratic allegiance to a more social democrat, nationalist, sovereignist approach of it, meaning that he is now embracing a more sovereignist, more Viktor Orban-like, not necessarily Georgescu-like, but Viktor Orban-ish approach of sovereignty, a certain firmness against the European institutions, and definitely balancing of Romania's relations with something more connected to the East, be it China, be it Russia, be it Turkey, or any other partners. He otherwise works in consultancy. He has, his own company, and his main clients are from those areas.
Who else?
The second one is the one that is by now the leader of the extreme right, or the nationalist right, conservative right, is George Simeon, who had been himself a bidder in the past elections. And he is more or less back to the original position, meaning back to square one. He decided to side with Călin Georgescu once the elections in November demonstrated there is a more traction on Georgescu's side, even if they did not really get along, and for a while they had to work out the way they build their relationship, which was largely opportunistic and based on this possibility to push forward the far-right agenda. Now that Georgescu is out of the picture, he is trying to not get back to his initial discourse, but embed into the new political discourse ideas that were pertaining to the world of Mr. Georgescu.
Well, clearly there is support, isn't there, amongst the Romanian population for the right, the political right, and it seems a far right in the absence of alternatives. What do you think is behind that support?
Oh, it is always the discontent in how the country is being governed and led and managed. This is a sort of overall nostalgia that turned bitter for the past 35 years. But more immediate causes are related to the persistent presence in the political life of Romania of the same political figures, the same names, the same policies, the same mistakes, the same errors, and the same suspicion. And given the fact that you would have no other opposition left because the two main parties, which were basically opponents, joined the coalition since 2021 and governed the country together, all possible opposition was pushed to the extreme right, for instance, or to the so-called centrist alternative, the Union Save Romania, who, by the way, did not hesitate to embrace political strategies that would put them together with extreme right against the European parties in the recent couple of weeks.
Understood.
So it's difficult to actually see where the trend is going when it comes to political identities and political action.
Well, that's what I want to specifically focus on in the last couple of minutes that we have left. You talk about trends. Now, we know that the Polish Foreign Minister, Ms. Sikorski, is in Bucharest at the moment. He arrived today. Clearly, there are areas of agreement, a common platform, if you like, with both countries being on the eastern flank of NATO and, of course, of the EU. What do you think is the undercurrent behind that meeting? What do you expect the outcomes to be?
I think Romania feels that in the last couple of months, the country lost a bit of its own position in the European Union and in NATO, given the problems related to the elections and also given to economic problems that simply exploded into our faces. It's a huge deficit, public deficit, a huge public debt. So we are working on that. But we definitely need a sort of a backup alliance. We need a shoulder to cry on, more or less. And of course, given the fact that, for instance, Romania is much aware of our inability for the moment to contribute more to the war effort of Ukraine, the partnership with Poland is also approached in a different angle, with most probably our government asking informally for Poland to also defend a bit some of our interests on the eastern flank when in dialogue with Paris and Berlin and London, because we are too much now digging into our own mess, to put it like that, to be able to focus completely on what is happening outside.
Well, I mean, Poland is currently holding the presidency of the European Council. What do you think Poland can do in that position to support the Romanian demands or positions or requirements as they currently stand?
Well, for the moment, let's say the priority is defense, and in many ways the visit actually corresponds to bilateral interests. But I'm absolutely sure that some common positions are going to be agreed on when it comes to Polish-Romanian approaches within the EU with regard to rearm, for instance, or other policies related to the defense of Europe, as well as to building this coalition of the willing, where Romania will contribute, but only logistically as a hub and not necessarily with military forces or military equipment, because we are also lacking it.
Understood. Now, just finally, in the last minute that we have left, generally, what is the perception towards the European Union and NATO amongst the population?
Is favorable. Fortunately, all the given polls in the recent weeks demonstrate there is support for the European Union. There is absolutely no will to leave the European Union or to get out of NATO. So from this point of view, all these sovereignist approaches and theses that we should leave, abandon the West are simply falling flat. And this is probably the best news we have, but let's say that the solution we are looking for is how to bring back to a more centrist trend those who are really upset with the way Romania developed in the last couple of decades, and they feel excluded from the prosperity and the ability to connect and be a European citizen indeed that happened to them.
Understood. Thank you so much for sharing your analysis with our audience, Mr. Albu-Comănescu. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, sir.
The same to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And that's all from us on this episode of World Talks. Goodbye.